So, looking at Arnold Schwarzenegger's hands here, the first thing that I notice is the fingers, the ballooned first phalanx of Mercury and Apollo. And this shows us a desire to present and project himself to the world in the correct way, to get his message across. This is shown by Mercury, the way it sort of leans in as well. This power of persuasion is quite a long first phalanx as well. It also shows an appreciation for physical beauty, as the first phalanx of Apollo suggests as well, and Mercury leans towards that sexual expression. But also, this shows us a strong ability to articulate. And this shows us that Arnold has a desire to create with tangible results, creative endeavors with sort of acting, but literally physically crafting. He's got some ability here, some desire to make things with his hands, and I expect he's probably quite good at doing that as well. But also it shows us this ballooned kind of Apollo here, that his idea, his reputation of who he is extremely important to him. And this is a priority, in fact. But also, one of the things I notice when we compare with the first phalanx of Saturn, the shortness of Jupiter doesn't actually reach, I'm doing a terrible job here, doesn't reach past the first, past halfway of the first phalanx of Saturn. But Apollo does. Apollo is actually reaching further. And again, this shows that reputation is hugely important. But also it shows, with a short Jupiter, it shows us high testosterone, and that's just a given, isn't it? But it also shows us an inferiority complex. So the achievements made never quite feel enough. And every time a person with an inferiority complex achieves something, they then move their sights, they set their sights even higher. So there's this chasing of rainbows effect, the grass is always greener type mentality. So they never quite feel rested, feel peaceful in their achievements, which is unfortunate. And often this is compensated for by sex, drugs, and alcohol. And I don't actually see that so much here. Perhaps in Arnold's younger days, we saw a wider, larger third phalanx of Jupiter. Jupiter is dominance as well as authority and judgment, decision making. But this third phalanx is the physical element of these things. So this is where we see the compensation for the inferiority complex, or where we could expect to see it. And as I say, I don't actually see a sort of a widened, enlarged base of Jupiter there. So that's a good sign, and I feel that means Arnold is more aligned with himself, understands himself, and that makes sense, being that he's no spring chicken anymore. And actually, all of the fingers are kind of ballooned a little bit, and in a way, now when we see it kind of ballooning just out before the very sort of tip, that's a bit of a sign of cardiac issues, potential cardiac problem, a predisposition to cardiac issues. I'm not too concerned about that. This is certainly a multi-talented person. And the heart line, just looking at the capacity here for emotions, is quite strong, and not perhaps something that you would expect from someone who's played such hard man roles his whole life. But no, this appears to be someone who has great capacity for loving relationships. And here we see Arnie looking at his own hands, and actually the fingers themselves look very analytical, very knotty here. The fingernails show an orderly, kind of logical, practical, rational approach. What's the word I'm looking for here? Regimented, I suppose. Except for Jupiter. Jupiter's a bit more conic, and that shows that decision making comes from a more of an intuitive place. And the thumb is incredibly turned out. That's a very flexible thumb, And a floppy kind of thumb like this does indicate a very complex nature, actually, but also someone who's very willing to put themselves out there. The first phalanx of the thumb is willpower. The second is logic and ideas. And the third is desire, or the base of the thumb, at least the ball of the thumb, and that's the Venus mount. And that acts as the kind of desire. So this really shows us someone who's willing to put themselves out there, quite literally willing to project themselves, and they value themselves as an asset. And notice as well this strong angle of proficiency here. Now this is in line with just what I've been saying, that there are skills here physically with the hands. This is someone who is very skilled in a certain craft, but it also is an indication of someone who's keen to work to a routine, a regimented person. That's what this also shows. The left Mercury finger appears to me to be less crooked than the right, and that to me shows sexual expression has now been more. He's realigned himself into and corrected his sexual expression into a healthier place. His ability to express in that regard is much healthier. Now, this is really interesting. Notice on the lifeline around about mid-20s, early to mid-20s, we've got this leap up towards the Saturn mount, Saturn, this place of duty, hard work, career, where the fate line endeavours to travel. And it's here that we see an achievement. This is an effort line. This is an ambition line. Well, they're one and the same, really. It's more appropriate to call it an effort line. An ambition line is an effort line that heads towards Jupiter, but in this case we've got an effort line that reaches towards Saturn, and this shows an achievement that gained Arnold wealth through efforts made. And this, we know, is winning Mr. Universe, or these worldwide sort of body building competitions. And this is a classic example of an achievement in a career move that provides wealth. And that's what's happened here. It provided career opportunities, and that's precisely what's happened here. And then we have, not too long after that, we have this leap upwards from the headline, reaching towards Mercury, this place of academia and learning, science and business. And we know that Arnold graduated, or at least I know because I've looked it up online, from Wisconsin Superior with a degree in economics and business, I believe. And so this reaching for Mercury here makes a lot of sense at this time. And then another fascinating effort line reaches up from the lifeline at around mid-30s, and it kind of points towards, I suppose it does point towards both Mercury and Apollo. And this is around the time of his first film. Now, I might get some backlash for saying this, but Arnold had an affair when he was, I'm going to say, early 40s, something like that. Because we have here a loyalty line that it travels through all areas of his life. It doesn't quite reach where it would have hurt him most, actually, and that's his reputation. And it doesn't fall into this place of revealing to the world what's happened. So behind closed doors, this all occurred, but it's a very real and very practical. It's a very physical situation, that's affected many lives, and this definitely happened. And I mean, we know now. I mean, because I saw this on his palm, and then I thought, well, I'm going to do a little bit of research before I start talking here, and I know I'm right. Arnold did, in fact, father another child, and his wife wanted a divorce, and they didn't get divorced for many, many years afterwards. But that's what happened, and Arnold has since admitted and come out about this. Is all out in the open now. But he fathered a son with his housekeeper. What I find interesting is this Mercury line. This is the kind of Mercury line you see on highly intuitive, instinctive businessmen. And, that makes sense, being that he has a degree in business. But, when you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, you don't really think of businessman. The headline is nice and creative. I find the distinctive vertical lines here on the third phalanx of Mercury only intriguing, because remember that the third phalanx of our fingers is a physical representation of what that finger represents, and Mercury is obviously communication and expression. So physical expression is one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's key traits, and that makes sense, having been, started off his career being a bodybuilder and obviously utilising his physicality all throughout his career. So that's interesting. What's interesting to me is that the success line is not all that strong. It's strong for a while, but then we see it kind of wanes, it peters out. There's a slight sort of island here, and that's more like it, I suppose. And that shows deformation. And actually, I think we've already seen that, in his life. And I think it's more around his feeling about how he's sort of failed to govern as he wanted to. He didn't enjoy the role. And I feel that he thinks he sort of failed in that department. To me, this really strikes me as a person whose reputation is far more important than money. And this success line for a lot of people does represent money, but it doesn't for Arnold. So his happiness comes from impressing others and being in the limelight and affecting people in a positive way, inspiring people. And that's huge, because, and I know that when we look at his palm, the shape, it's a broad-based spatulate palm, and this is someone who is a big motivator of others. They enjoy motivating others. They enjoy changing the rules. They like picking up the rule book and writing new rules. They reinvent. And that is undoubtedly what Arnold has done for a Hollywood action movie. He's rewritten so many rules in that way. But also, this is certainly someone who cannot get motivated unless there's an idea, a feeling, some spark there underneath him. And once that's lit, he is who we need him to be, that motivator, that fire on screen. And that being said, I mean, I should have really looked at this and explained in the first place. This is actually a fire hand. I mean, I was umming and ahhing about this being at first an earth hand. There's certainly earthy traits, what with the routine and the skills here. And, it is a lot of sort of squarish features and angles here. But actually, this is a fire hand. And a bit of a complex of other a bit of a mix of other elements as well, but mostly a fire hand, and that's what makes this a complicated character, complicated person. And this is also this thumb, this outward turned out thumb, adds to that as well. And what's interesting just looking at this is this right here. This is a travel line. Much later on in life, Arnold is in his mid-70s now? I don't exactly know. But this is certainly a travel line for Arnold soon. And I believe that Arnold will travel back to his native homeland, or somewhere closer to home, He moved to California when he was young, and he's stayed and lived in America for a very long time. But I think Arnold will travel back home and carry out some sort of venture there, some sort of new idea. It's interesting to me because his career line takes a turn from a more sort of conventional route. It takes a turn towards, it heads more towards Jupiter, and this is a place of decision making and judgment and authority. So this is this turn towards politics. However, looking at the career after leaving office, it just sort of seems a bit non-existent. So I feel like Arnold doesn't really know where to go next, what to do next. So this move back to a place closer to home, which I think he's going to do, it shows a couple of things. Firstly, I think he's missing home. He's missing. He's not enjoying America as much anymore. And secondly, I think it also shows that for some, destiny is not set in stone, far more so for some than others. And I feel like looking at Arnie's hands, he has carved his own destiny. This was not a path that was set out for him. He's very much in control of, what's happened to him in his life and what will happen. There's a great sense of free will here. And I don't think we've seen the end, actually, of Arnold's career. I think there's another turn around the corner there, and I have no idea what he's going to surprise us with next. But there we go. That's this week's palm reading. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know what your thoughts are. Drop me a comment, and please subscribe, please like, and I'll see you on the next one.